What if the walls of ancient temples could speak? Imagine uncovering the voices of pharaohs, scribes, and everyday Egyptians, each symbol a doorway into their world of rituals, politics, and daily routines. In this video, we'll decode the mysterious script of hieroglyphs, revealing the stories etched in stone for thousands of years. For generations, these intricate carvings were silent, their meanings buried beneath centuries of mystery. But today, we'll peel back the layers of time and unravel the mystery behind hieroglyphs, turning those elegant carvings into clear narratives that breathe life into an ancient civilization. These symbols aren't just art, they're windows into the thoughts, beliefs, and daily rhythms of a world long past. So get ready to see beyond the symbols and discover how this ancient language continues to inspire, inform, and captivate, even in the modern age. The Rosetta Stone. Long before the modern explosion of archaeological interest, ancient Egypt's monuments towered in silence, their walls covered in script that no living soul could read. The way to break their silence didn't come from vague legends or wishful thinking, but from a chance archaeological find, the Rosetta Stone. But to appreciate how earth-shattering its discovery was, it helps to imagine the struggle that came before. The mystery before the Rosetta Stone. After the end of pharaonic Egypt and the rise of Christianity, the use of hieroglyphs faded. By the 5th century AD, they'd become a dead script like pictures on the wall. Their meanings are lost even to the descendants of the Egyptians. For over 1,000 years, even educated Greeks and Romans didn't know how to read hieroglyphs. They assumed these markings were just mystical, symbolic art, not a language anyone ever spoke. Medieval attempts at decipherment floundered because scholars insisted the script was purely ideographic, a code of images, not phonetic sounds. Surprisingly, some medieval Arab scholars came closer to the truth. Figures like Dhul Nun al-Misri and Ibn Wahshiyah between the 9th and 10th centuries recognized that these signs might represent sounds, not just ideas. They even reproduced partial sign tables and suggested phonetic values for a handful of hieroglyphs. However, these insights weren't widely known in Europe, and the prevailing belief remained that hieroglyphs were mystical symbols. By the 18th century, European scholars such as Jürgen Zoega analyzed recurring signs. They speculated that the script was more complex than mere picture writing, noticing that the direction animals faced indicated the line's reading order. Yet, nobody knew enough to crack the code until a chance discovery on the Nile Delta. Discovery and significance of the Rosetta Stone. In 1799, during Napoleon Bonaparte's campaign in Egypt, French soldiers were repairing a crumbling wall near the town of Rashid, Rosetta, when they found an odd, heavy slab buried in the rubble. This stone, later known as the Rosetta Stone, was inscribed with a decree from King Ptolemy V. Epiphanies dated to 196 BC. Crucially, it sported 3 bands of text. The top in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, the middle in Demotic, a more everyday Egyptian script, and the bottom in ancient Greek. Because scholars in Europe could read Greek, they quickly realized that the Greek passage announced, "This decree will be inscribed in the sacred script, in the native script, and in the Greek script, and will be set up in Egypt's great temples." This meant the same message was written 3 different ways, a ready-made decoder ring for a lost language. Rosetta Stone's journey took it from French hands to British possession, landing in the British Museum in 1802. Lithographic copies were distributed to scholars across Europe, sparking a race to decipher the ancient Egyptian language. Early decipherment attempts. The task was daunting. Greek text was easy to translate, but the Demotic and hieroglyphic scripts were alien. Thomas Young, an English polymath, made the first significant step in 1814. Studying the stone's inscriptions, Jung identified sets of characters called cartouches. They were oval frames that seemed to surround royal names in the text. By matching cartouches in the hieroglyphic and demotic texts with the Greek name Ptolemy, he proposed that some of the hieroglyphs must spell out sounds rather than just ideas. Jung's analysis led him to assign tentative phonetic sounds to several hieroglyphs within royal names and to link them with corresponding demotic signs. However, he hesitated to believe that the script had a broader phonetic content, and so his progress slowed. Champollion's breakthrough. Then the real breakthrough came from the French linguist Jean-François Champollion. From a young age, Champollion was obsessed with Egypt and devoted years to studying Coptic, Egypt's surviving Christian language. He realized that by pairing his knowledge of Coptic with Jung's approaches to the Rosetta Stone, he could begin to hear what the hieroglyphs were saying. Champollion's turning point came in 1822, when he compared other royal names like Cleopatra, found in the cartouches from different monuments. He noticed overlapping signs between Ptolemy and Cleopatra, allowing him to deduce the corresponding sounds. In September of that year, he wrote a feverish letter to a colleague, exclaiming, "I've got it," before reportedly fainting from excitement. Champollion soon demonstrated that hieroglyphs combined three systems: readable pictorial symbols, ideograms, phonetic representations, like an alphabet, and determinatives, symbols that clarify a word's meaning. Presenting his breakthrough at the French Académie des Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres, he revealed that the stone gave access to the spoken sounds of ancient Egypt. By 1824, Champollion had published a detailed work that laid the foundations for Egyptian grammar, transforming Egyptology from a field of guesswork into a genuine linguistic science. So Rosetta Stone's revelation was not just the decipherment of one object, but the key that unlocked thousands of years of records spanning rituals, commerce, poetry, and science. Suddenly, the voices of ancient Egyptians, from kings to officials to humble villagers, became accessible. It's no exaggeration to say that the story of the Rosetta Stone is the story of how modern Egyptology was born. The system revealed. Even after the Rosetta Stone cracked the code, many people imagine hieroglyphs as just fancy pictures. But hidden behind the animal heads and reeds is a genius language system, surprisingly flexible and expressive. Let's dig into what makes Egyptian hieroglyphics so clever. The building blocks. At the heart of hieroglyphic writing are three main types of symbols, each with a different job in the sentence. Phonograms. These signs represent sounds much like our alphabet letters. There are uniconsonantal, one sound, biconsonantal, two sounds, and triconsonantal, three sounds. Hieroglyphs. For example, the owl stands for the letter M and the ripple of water for N. Most Egyptian words are spelled out using a mix of these sound-based signs. Logograms, ideograms. Sometimes a sign means a whole word or idea. For example, the picture of a mouth means both mouth and the sound R. When the symbol acts as a whole word, it often gets a short vertical stroke beneath it as a marker. Determinatives. These are non-phonetic symbols, always added at the end of a word to show which meaning is intended. Ancient Egyptians didn't write vowels. That means many words could look the same. HDJ might mean silver or white. To avoid confusion, determinatives, like the symbol for metal or sun, show if the writer meant the metal or the color. These signs aren't pronounced aloud but are crucial for sense. Directions and artistic flair. Hieroglyphs are read in the direction that the human or animal figures face. If the owl looks right, read right to left. If left, then left to right. Text could appear in rows or columns, and order was top to bottom within the writing direction. The Egyptians often incorporated their writing into the art, stacking or grouping signs to avoid blank spaces. Grammar and language structures. Ancient Egyptian grammar also has its own unique flavor, distinct from modern languages. It's an Afro-Asiatic tongue related to Arabic and Hebrew, but with many quirks. No input for vowels in the script, and special endings and markers to show tense, gender, or plurality. Nouns have masculine and feminine forms, and may end with a bread loaf sign to show the feminine. Plurals are often represented by either the quail chick glyph or the rope curl glyph, while verbs appear in various forms. Adjectives usually follow the noun, in contrast to English, and word order can convey emphasis or importance. Honorifics sometimes move the names of gods or kings to the front of the sentence, even though they're read later, showing respect and reverence within the writing system. Layout and aesthetic choices. Unlike modern text, hieroglyphs could be arranged in blocks, fitting around statues or murals, or squeezed to fit artistic needs. It was common to group, resize, or even slant the signs, making reading both a technical and creative skill. Daily life and divine beliefs etched in stone. Hieroglyphs are often seen as the domain of kings and priests, but the truth is more fascinating. They were woven into every strand of ancient Egyptian life. From wheat harvests to burials, from temple walls to a merchant's tax record, hieroglyphs were everywhere. Administrative records, such as tracking grain rations, tax collections, trade deals, and census lists, relied on the script, especially in hieratic or demotic forms. These documents allowed ancient Egypt's vast bureaucracy to function. For example, papyri from the workers' village at Deir el-Medina details everything from sick leave to beer allowances, showing writing as the lifeblood of day-to-day organization. Also, as religion touched every aspect of Egyptian society, it's no surprise that many of the most gorgeous hieroglyphic texts are religious in nature. On temple columns, tomb walls, and sarcophagi, hieroglyphs documented rituals, prayers, hymns, and spells. Some of the world's earliest religious literature comes straight from these walls, including the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and the Book of the Dead. These texts were instructions for eternal life, with spells crafted to help the dead navigate the dangers and gates of the afterlife. Hieroglyphs often accompanied depictions of deities in temple art, creating a narrative that linked the divine with the earthly realm. For example, inscriptions might describe the attributes of a god, their origins, or significant myths associated with them, enhancing the viewer's understanding of the divine presence within the temple. So hieroglyph writing was sacred work, believed to activate the word's magical power and to connect mortals with the divine. Royal propaganda. No one used hieroglyphs as deliberately as the pharaohs. By carving their deeds into stone, rulers asserted their might, justified their rule, and linked themselves directly to the gods. Inscriptions on obelisks, temples, and stelae recorded military triumphs, great building projects, and festivals, often in terms that blazed with exaggeration and symbolism. Royal titulary was a classic example. The full suite of a pharaoh's titles might stretch across the temple walls, each name encircled in a cartouche or flanked by divine images, blending language, art, and spiritual authority. This wasn't just old-school PR either. Contemporary discoveries of crypto-hieroglyphs show that some messages were only intended for the elite reader. Recent work on the Luxor obelisk in Paris reveals hidden messages meant to be understood only by priests or high officials, offering secret reassurances of royal divinity or instructing rituals invisible to the ordinary observer. The scribes. No discussion of Egyptian writing is complete without meeting the true heroes of this story, the scribes. In a land where reading and writing were rare skills, scribes formed a privileged, essential social class, the keepers of secrets, who made words live forever. They stood at the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian society, beneath the nobility and clergy, an intellectual elite exempt from hard labor and taxes. Only about 1 to 5% of people could read or write, so the scribe's role was precious and respected. They worked as administrators, accountants, diplomats, priests, and teachers. Their literacy made them invaluable for everything from government bureaucracy to temple rituals to literature and law. Ancient wisdom literature often praised the life of the scribe. One ancient Egyptian poet wrote, "It's the greatest of all calling, thee is none like it in the land. Set your heart on books, there's nothing better than books." See, there's no profession without a boss, except for the scribe. He is the boss. One papyrus, translated by Miriam Lichtheim, mentioned, "Happy is the heart of him who writes. He is young each day. Be a scribe. Your body will be sleek. Your hand will be soft. You are one who sits grandly in your house. Your servants answer speedily. Beer is poured copiously. All who see you rejoice in good cheer." Training and education. Becoming a scribe required years of rigorous learning, usually in special schools attached to temples or royal palaces, called the House of Life, per Ankh. Boys from elite backgrounds typically began learning at a young age, mastering reading, writing, grammar, mathematics, and even foreign languages in later periods. Training started with basic hieratic and demotic scripts, progressing to full hieroglyphs for elite or monumental texts. Education emphasized not only language, but also ethics, administration, and applied arts. School texts included lists, letters, contracts, and examples of proper behavior. Mastery of the rules of rhetoric and proper speech was as important as grammar and orthography. Many scribes also learned to create illustrations or calculations, blending artistry with technical skill. Tools and materials. Scribes' essential tools were simple but ingenious. They included papyrus, the world's first paper made from pith strips of the papyrus plant, joined, pressed, and dried for smooth, durable pages. Reed pens cut to a point, chewed for extra softness, and dipped in black or red ink. Palettes, which were wooden holders with slots for reed pens and 2 inkwells, and ink made of carbon black soot and gum for standard text, or red ochre for special markup. For inscriptions in stone, artisans switched to chisels and hammers, requiring steady hands and even greater skill. Brushes made of animal hair or plant fibers were also standard for working on papyrus or murals. The life and work of scribes. Scribes were found in every part of Egyptian society. Court scribes documented royal decrees and laws. Temple scribes recorded rituals and wrote religious books. Government scribes managed taxes, land, census, and trade records, keeping the economy humming. Scribes also wrote private letters, contracts, and even literary works like poems and stories. Socially, scribes enjoyed high status, with some rising to significant influence in court or the priesthood. They could own land, wield authority, and pass their skills, but not their status to their children. So Egypt owes its memory of the past to the scribes. Every myth, decree, scientific treatise, or epic tale was preserved by the careful hand of a scribe. Without their diligence, much of what we know of ancient Egypt would have vanished with the Nile floods. Modern Egyptology and technology. Now, with Champollion's work, Egyptology became a real science. Ever since, scholars have steadily filled in the details of ancient Egypt's religion, history, math, medicine, and daily life. Yet research never stopped evolving. Today, high-tech tools are transforming how we read, study, and preserve hieroglyphs. Archaeologists are now using digital drawing, high-resolution 3D scanning, and photogrammetry to record and analyze inscriptions. Recent breakthroughs allow faded or hidden inscriptions to be revealed and digitally enhanced. HSI, coupled with AI-based recognition, deep learning, and convolutional neural networks, has made it possible to read texts otherwise too worn for the human eye. notably helping with the restoration, translation, and study of texts on coffins, stelae, and temple walls. Also, Egyptian hieroglyphs are now fully available in Unicode, making it possible to use the script in digital media and academic software. This helps preserve, share, and teach the script worldwide, from classrooms to museums. Crypto-hieroglyphs and hidden messages. When we think we know it all, hieroglyphs keep surprising us. Cryptographic hieroglyphic writing, texts encoded with new or strange combinations of signs, appeared especially frequently in the New Kingdom period as a kind of mind-bending puzzle for the literate elite. Recent exciting research on the Luxor obelisk in Paris has unearthed 7 crypto-hieroglyph texts hidden by Ramses II's craftsmen. Jean-Guillaume Aulet-Pelletier, an esteemed professor at both the University of Paris-Sorbonne and the Catholic Institute of Paris, revealed that these inscriptions provide insights into Pharaoh Ramesses II's reign. These were designed to be readable only by high-ranking priests or visiting nobles, and included secret messages, ritual commands, or royal titles, sometimes viewable only from boats approaching a temple. Their presence proves that some Egyptians were not only literate, but also skilled in manipulating words, meanings, and codes. That mastery of hieroglyphs meant more than routine churning of standard texts. Unsolved mysteries. Though much has been deciphered, mysteries endure. The exact vocalization of the ancient Egyptian language, like how it sounded, is still mainly reconstructed from Coptic and comparisons with related languages, as vowels were not explicitly written. Rare scripts, undeciphered fragments, and unique sign variants remain puzzles. The purpose and meaning of some cryptic sequences and magical texts are still debated. Hieroglyphs have inspired linguistic research far beyond Egypt, being compared to, and sometimes confused with, undeciphered scripts like the Indus Valley or linear Elamite scripts. Although most major Egyptian texts are understood, small discoveries continue to reshape our knowledge. The everlasting legacy. Clearly, hieroglyphs have left a lasting cultural mark that extends far into modern times. These ancient symbols have inspired artists to today's tattoo and jewelry designers. In modern culture, the Ankh, Scarab, and Eye of Horus have become classic icons of eternal Egypt. The conceptual leap of representing complex ideas with symbolic images still shapes how we communicate. Just look at emojis, signage, infographics, and interface icons. Contemporary design often borrows the pictorial clarity and abstraction of hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs appear in movies, comics, and pop culture, typically used to evoke magic, mystery, and lost wisdom. Digital technology allows anyone to use and study hieroglyphs, and new apps even let children write their names in the script. Scholars continue to study newly discovered tombs, papyri, and monuments that date back as far as 5,000 years. Advances in artificial intelligence and digital archiving promise even more profound insights, blurring the boundaries between linguistics, archaeology, and computer science. Despite being more than 5 millennia old, hieroglyphs remain relevant in the 21st century, serving as a bridge between the ancient and modern worlds and fueling an enduring fascination with Egypt's history. So, from mysterious pictorial carvings on ancient stones to a fully deciphered language echoing through world culture, the story of Egyptian hieroglyphs is as much about tenacity as it is about brilliance. Rosetta Stone cracked open secrets held tight for centuries. Now, hieroglyphs keep challenging and charming us with their blend of art, code, and imagination. Every sign, every scribe, every scratched ostracon or majestic temple inscription testifies to a civilization that valued writing as a bridge between mortals and the divine, between yesterday and today. Now, as modern research and technology give us ever more tools to study and understand these symbols, we're reminded that the story isn't over. The enigmatic language of Egyptian hieroglyphs lives on, etched not just in stone, but in human curiosity itself. So, what are your thoughts about this video? Please share with us in the comments section below. We would love to read them. Also, if you liked this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content.